Malaysia. Malaysia is a multi-ethnic country. Kuala Lumpur, also known as the Klang Valley, consists of 7 million inhabitants. It is the fastest growing metropolitan region in terms of population and economy. It is the capital city of Malaysia. Being the economic center of the country, it attracts a lot of the expats and foreign workers, motivated by the uprise of the economy seeking higher salaries and general job opportunities. Ethnic Malays of the Malaysian Peninsula make up 50% of the population. Malays of Chinese descent 30%, and Malaysians of Indian descent comprise about 8% of the population. The rest is made up of development workers from Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Indonesia, and many more. Within the city, the life seems fairly modern, sophisticated, and peaceful. But there is a dark side to the blade, because Malaysia struggles with an enormous problem: racism. The development in the surrounding areas, especially Bandar Sunway, reinforces the economic significance of the city. Created by billionaire Jeffrey Chea, Bandar Sunway is a vibrant and densely populated township of Kuala Lumpur. It has become known as a popular and educational hub, hosting a wide array of prestigious universities, and an entertainment hub, being host of the 10th biggest mall in the world, the Sunway Pyramid Mall. Having the only indoor ice skating ring in Malaysia, and having modern amusement park facilities with a significant amount of universities and academic facilities, one would assume the people in here are knowledgeable enough not to endorse racism. But in this case, it might be an educational problem. The Malay-controlled government ensures that all people of Malay origin are given preferential treatment when it comes to the number of student places in government universities.
When it comes to benefit, they don't give any much benefits to the Malays, Indians and Chinese. They only give benefits to the Malays. A lot of loans and all that.
The lack of education or sense of morality about racism in Malaysian education system is a concern. It could also be a religious problem, seeing it as Malaysia is a Muslim country. Islamic laws prohibit a lot of relations to be maintained within different races. For example, Malaysia does not recognize Israel's right to exist. Malaysia's top Islamic body, the National Fatwa Council, has ruled against Muslims practicing yoga, saying it had elements of other religions that could corrupt Muslims. The same body has ruled against ghosts and other supernatural beings. This only being an example of how the religion affects the intelligence of the society.
In Malaysia, they are so reserved. That shows the mentality of Muslims in Malaysia is screwed up.
The status of freedom of religion in Malaysia is a controversial issue which enforces more racism. Let's break down two forms of racism in Malaysia that are very apparent. The first form of racism in Malaysia is against black people. The Ridzuan condo in the township of Bandar Sunway created a large controversy by banning black people from renting out apartments in their condo. So we met up with Armstrong, a current resident of the Ridzuan condo, and other victims share about racist experience during their stay in Malaysia.
During the African tenure ban, I was a tenant of Ridzuan condo, and the chairman of whatever board, he stated all Africans should leave the condo. And we saw letters all over the place saying Africans should vacate on a specific time. And I was shocked because, I wasn't shocked because we asked to vacate, I was shocked because of the reasons. And he didn't really state the specific, he was specific on the race that would leave. And he stated prostitution, he stated that Africans have problems to live.
Specific condos that I've been trying to look for an apartment to stay at, we can't be allowed to rent out here because we're African. So it was really, I really got offended because we show our passports, they're like, no, we don't allow Africans here.
The actions tell a lot. The way they look at you, the way they'll avoid you, and everything.
Looked at weirdly, asked so many questions, whether we are from Africa, poor countries, how did you get here, did you even wonder, because they don't think we can actually go by plane and shit like that.
They used to call us what they call us Negro, and that's really, I'm really...
The other situation was when I went to bank, I took the letter, I took the necessary requirements, and I went to this bank in KL. And I went there and they told me I cannot open an account because I'm Nigerian. I'm like, excuse me, I have my money and I have requirements and I'm a student. I study here. And they said, sorry, we cannot. Straight to my face because I'm Nigerian. Okay.
Malaysia has been a multi-ethnic country for many years, and yet part of the population does not acknowledge and respect other races. Having to state your race and religion beyond entering a hospital or health facility, even universities, is beyond any understanding. Malaysia also does not possess any true form of democracy, because within the law of the country, the elected leader has to be Muslim in order to even run for president. Politics should not be determined by the religion of the individual leading the country. The people are too afraid to expose racism or any other political issue, fearing it might have jurisdictional consequences.
There are laws that can be used against people that do speak out for things that are not deemed favorable.
So the only video information on racism in Malaysia is either not serious, childish and uninformative, or governmental propaganda trying to obliterate the fact that this issue exists.
People might not be upfront about it, but yeah, it's there. You can't deny it's everywhere.
Beyond the racism toward black people, the other form is inter-society racism between the different ethnicities in Malaysia. Since Indians are a minority in this country, they are often mistreated when it comes to renting out an apartment or finding jobs. We meet up with Malays of Indian descent and discuss the significance of this issue.
Typically, the housing market, for example, is monopolized by largely Chinese people. So if you're not Chinese and you're looking to rent a place, there are numerous signs in public really that just says prefers Chinese or Chinese only, and that you can take photographs of. In this case, when I was looking for a place to rent, the first question will always be, what is your race? And then there are people that just stop talking if you say you're not Chinese.
We were actually looking for a house. We used to live in apartments, and then we were looking for a house, and then most of the locals, or like Chinese, or to be specific, or like to other races, they didn't let us stay there, or like because we were from other countries, they just wanted locals or Chinese or some different races. But yeah, that's what I thought.
You can try calling Asians for house sales, and if you speak with a Chinese accent, they will tell you it's available, and they'll ask you if you want to come and view it. And if you talk, and if they ask you whether you're Chinese or what's your name, and it's not Chinese, they'll tell you, 9 times out of 10, they'll tell you that, oh, the unit is no longer available.
The problem of racism in Malaysia could be triggered by multiple factors. It could be an educational problem, a political problem, or a religious problem, although the latter two are intertwined. The results of our research have proven that all of these components play a major role on how racism is created and treated. The issue of racism in Malaysia is absurd and beyond any comprehension. Not being able to rent out an apartment according to race is just the beginning of the conflict. The issue doesn't stop and it continues growing. Here are more examples of how Malaysians have been treated only because they don't look alike.
I was studying in help. I made some friends, I think the first day, Chinese friends, and I don't know if it normally happens to Chinese people or local Malay. Like, they were local. They kind of phased me out. And it wasn't the first time that has happened, because I've spent maybe over a year in Malaysia, and every time, I've always faced racism with the Chinese population here. They don't allow you to be there unless you look like them.
If at all we as Indians go and destroy the Muslims' mosque, will be in prison, behind the bars. But if at all they do it, it's no problem. They can do it is by giving excuses. This does not belong to that temple property and all that. So I think that's a double standard. If they can do anything to us, we can do anything to them. If we do anything to them, they will put us behind the bars. So that's sort of mentality they have.
Racism has become one of the main predicaments in Malaysia. Sadly, we know where these problems arise from, but the only way to solve this issue is to gain more exposure. Harmony and people living together is still something the majority of the population strives for. The older generation of citizens had told us that racism hadn't existed before the government of the country turned Muslim. People had lived peacefully together without second thoughts about what race, religion, or ethnicity you are. One day it will be fine again. But until then, we need to have the courage to stand up and speak up against the people and governments to prove that we are not afraid. Please subscribe to this channel so we can gain more exposure to the world.
The Durian Heat, bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
Welcome back to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. You're with Grace.
Hi, this is Gowri.
And we are at the Durian Heat, where we discuss certain issues that's going on around in Southeast Asia. But this time, we are staying in Malaysia because apparently over the weekend, there were an incident that happened. And not only that, but that it brought to a lot of other, issues on social media especially.
All right, and let's talk about what really happened at Lao Yat in the first place. For starters, it was a simple case of a phone theft.
Yep.
There was this guy who wanted to purchase a phone from an Oppo phone shop, and it seems that when he was trying to purchase the phone, he wasn't sure exactly if it was original or not.
Yep.
And while the shopkeeper turned around, he actually just grabbed the phone and ran away.
And
of course, the shopkeeper ran after him, tried to stop him. And he actually fell down at the escalator. So they managed to get hold of him, make a police report, and hand him over to the authorities.
Right.
And the guy's friends, the guy who got arrested, his friends were not happy, and they brought a huge amount of people to just gather in front of Oppo's shop and sort of protest against their friend's arrest, and also threatened to beat up the Oppo's salesperson who actually made that police report. And that's when things got worse. A lot of people kind of lost control, and they beat up workers working at a few phone outlets here. And also there was a lot of damage in terms of the shop, the products. If we saw a lot of pictures, the damage was quite bad, fighting and whatnot. And this went on for a couple of days, the whole riot, and people just queuing up or just gathering in front of Yat Plaza until the whole place was shut closed, fearing for safety of the people.
Yes, and then it just happened with the phone. And now it's not about a phone anymore. It's about the racism in Malaysia, apparently. And then even a lot of articles have been produced from certain news agency and a journalist out there. And the whole social media is just going really crazy with the whole these issues going on. And like we mentioned before, there are mixed feedbacks coming from youth and also from the older generations. So it is reaching out to almost everyone in Malaysia right now. And they said even the stereotyping to certain races, and it's not an exception.
Right. I think this whole thing could have actually been avoided, or it probably shouldn't have even happened in the first place. There was a guy who actually stole the phone, and that was, of course, his mistake. And of course, anyone who is the owner of the shop would have reported the guy, no matter whether it was an Indian or Chinese, or even if it was another Malay guy. If somebody steals your phone, you will lodge a report against that person. And but this was turned into a case of Chinese attacking a Malay guy, that's where I think it went wrong, or it was blown out of proportion.
I would say,
yes, because like I was saying, when somebody steals your phone, you will lodge a report. Doesn't matter what your skin color is, doesn't matter what you look like to me. If you steal my stuff from my shop, I will lodge a report against you. And for his friends to protest by gathering in front of the whole plaza and beating up people and losing control, of course that is not the proper thing to do in the first place.
Well, at Low Yat Plaza, right, it caused 5 people injured, and including there were 2 journalists there, and the whole this group of people, they attacked the shop the next day, and this whole group of Malays, and they were really not happy how this cheating Chinese had tried to sell this, sort of false phone to the Malay man, and their whole stereotyping and all these stories sort of created again, and the lot of damages, like you mentioned, about the 70,000 ringgit in losses, and this shoplifting, for sure, it's not unusual, and it's got nothing to do with race originally, but it developed to certain, it pushed the limit basically, and then we are talking about the racism here in Malaysia. And in the social media, a lot of hashtags are going on again, and then the video is another story here, because when things happen, now people just automatically they take out their phones and they just start recording and they put it on the YouTube. I mean, it is sort of a easiest way to spread the news, and then it is instant. However, where are the helping hands? They were just standing there and they're just watching the whole incident.
Right, and I think going back to what you said, it was actually, I think, more of like a final straw to most people.
Right.
Well, although they were saying that, this Chinese guy was trying to cheat me for my money, and that was the perception that they had, that Chinese people probably like to cheat, and that probably comes from their past experiences or what their parents tell them growing up, because I don't think that you can stereotype a race that way. There are like millions of Chinese people in the world, and you cannot say that every one of them, just because they're Chinese, they have this cheating mindset. That's not right. Anyone can cheat, whether you're Indian, you're Malay, you're Chinese,
right.
you're Iban, or you're Hispanic, Latin American, whatever race it is. If you grow up that way with that kind of mindset, you'll end up cheating people, and I don't think this has anything to do with the skin color. What started as a phone theft actually escalated because of all these racial terms that were being used. I mean, it could have just been about this guy reported me, but no, it had to be this Chinese guy reported this Malay guy. And when you bring in race into your statement like that, it also gives the impression that, so this Chinese person is taking advantage of this helpless Malay guy that was just trying to purchase a phone or whatever it is. And then this was also used maybe as sort of like a platform for people to start saying everything that they've been wanting to say for a long time. They probably wanted to they had a lot of suppressed feelings or emotions and whatnot, and they were just waiting for some incident to just spark the whole thing off. And I think that's what happened here. What started as a phone theft, like I said, it was taken out of context, it was blown out of proportion, and then people started using it as to highlight the fact that racism still exists in this country. And that part I probably will not refute. Yes, of course there is still racism in this country, but this whole thing about the phone incident probably has nothing to do with it.
It is nothing to do with it, for sure. Our Prime Minister, Najib Razak, also said it is the criminal act, for sure, for stealing a phone or a product. But at the end, it became a racial incident, and he's not really happy to see these things happen in the country. And he also said that he asked the Inspector General of Police to take effective action to prevent such incidents from reoccurring. And at the same time, we have a social media freedom, and he mentioned there are many problems because of in this matter. It is too free, apparently, and this is something that should be reviewed deeply. That's what he said. And when it comes to social media and then plus the incidents, people like to share, people like to post things, and a lot of a lot of friends and a lot of people, a group of people, they posted on the Facebook saying that let's not talk about the racism here in Malaysia. I mean, where is Malaysia after all? Where is all this harmony we've talked about? Where is the rich in culture, rich in something? Where are all those elements? And why are we fighting between all Malays and Chinese especially?
And I think going back to the race issue, you're right. When it comes to Malaysia, it's definitely not easy to be in a multiracial country. It's not easy for any country at all, not just Malaysia. I mean, if you look at the U.S., even between the black people and the white people, just two different ethnicities can also cause a lot of problem. But the best, I don't think you can completely to say eradicate racism from the whole thing, but we can always find ways to live in harmony. You can find ways to accept each other's differences. Of course, it's easier said than done, and of course, I'm not denying the fact that there is racism that exists, but what I don't agree with is when they associate this with the phone incident, saying that it is about racism. Deal with it. And well, it's not about racism. It's about somebody who was trying to steal a phone. That's about it. And I think there was a very beautiful video, I would say, by Namwi that was posted on Facebook as well, where he said, yes, I saw 3 different races. You want to know what I saw? I saw the thief race, the police race, and the gangster race. And I think
that makes sense.
That makes sense, and that's absolutely right. Those were the 3 kind of people who were involved in that whole riot. It's really not about Chinese, Indian, or Malay. In fact, I don't even know if there were any Indians involved in this whole incident in the first place. And in his video, he actually held up a lighter. It was a black and white video, and he said, tell me what color this lighter is. And of course, we don't know because it's black and white. And then he said, that's right, it doesn't matter what color it is because a lighter is a lighter. Same way that it doesn't matter what color you are, what race you are. If you're a thief, you're a thief. If I'm a shopkeeper, I'm a shopkeeper. And I think that is the fundamental of this incident that happens. And to say that this is about racism is completely wrong.
He did raise a very good point, and his definition of racist here, it's just straight to the point, not just because of our backgrounds or even the skin color. It's all about how we treated the situation, and his racism towards the police officers and the theft and even the shopkeeper. It's right, the definition is there, but we're still fighting, on a lot of platforms, fighting over this racism and being racist in Malaysia. It is such a shameful sort of incident that happened over the weekend, and it just that as if you put an oil on that incident. It's just it just spread like a wildfire, and until now people are talking about it. When you just open your Facebook or Twitter with the hashtags, you will see a lot of posts that are coming up.
And also this goes back to the reaction of people as well. I think some people do agree with the fact that it is about racism, and they're saying that we should not live in denial. But like I was saying earlier, it's not about living in denial, but it's not something that you can avoid as well in a country. I mean, for example, if I can talk about Myanmar, you see what's happening there between the Rohingyas and the people of Myanmar themselves, the Burmese people. And the Rohingyas are getting tortured and killed because of their different ethnicity, different religion. And of course, there's an extreme example. And that's not the case in Malaysia. We don't torture and kill each other just because of a different ethnicity, different race. And I think we are, there are some extremist group who cause some rifts between the different races, but ultimately we do know how to live with our differences. We have been doing it for a long time,
for sure,
whether we like it or not. And I think we are used to it. I mean, I see a lot of people sort of, I would say, showing off on Facebook, like, oh, I have Malay friends, Indian friends, whatever. I still have my nasi lemak and I have my thosai at night. And I don't think that that is the correct representation of being in living in harmony. But still, that is probably one of the steps, even if it's just a minor one. At the end of the day, we are all Malaysians, and I think we are used to the fact that this is a multiracial country, and we know how to accept each other and live our lives.
So we'll talk about more about this after this short break. But please do leave us the feedback on the Facebook regarding these issues, because apparently on Twitter it's very active regarding this Loyat clash, and apparently there is a Chinese youth singing Assalamu Hari Raya, and then it sort of brings the warmness to cover this issue. So we'll be back after this short break. So stay tuned.
The Durian Heat, bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
Welcome back to Durian ASEAN. You're at the Durian Heat with Grace.
And this is Gowri.
And we've been talking about the incident that happened over the weekend in Yat Plaza, and then with the whole story, and then how it led to have the controversial issue in Malaysia, which is racism. And I think here, this section, we'll probably talk about how Malaysian government and perhaps the whole society needs to react upon this issue. Because we kept saying that it just started with the phone, and then it could have just ended very simply. However, the problem here is not to talk about the stealing phone. It's to talk about the racism. And when it comes to Malaysia, there are stereotyping and the stories from each race, and a lot of people have been sort of piling the emotions and then their sort of complaints against each other. And then when something happens, they just pour out everything. And then social media is pretty much a good platform for expressing their opinions, and then just to share their posts.
I think so. Well, this incident actually sort of also helped a lot of people to say what they've been wanting to say for a long time, which can also be sort of an emotional relief for some people, as sensitive as it might be. We did see a lot of Facebook statuses by so many Malaysians who came up to voice out what they thought about the whole Loyat incident. But to go back to the root of the problem, like you mentioned, this is not just about the phone. I mean, that's one part of the story.
Right.
But the other part, the one that caused the misunderstanding, was the racial perceptions that we have against one another. And I think the only best way to do this is through exposure and through education, and by not stereotyping other races, because it's very easy to do that Malays are like this, Indians are like this, Chinese are like this. That's probably what we did back then, like with our grandparents or with our parents. But I think things are changing now, and we do have the capacity to think for ourselves, and don't let what someone else says cloud your judgment against another person, and it's not right to just stereotype the entire race just because of what one or two person did.
And at the same time, I'm looking at this article that was produced by the Malay Mail Online, and according to this journalist who wrote this article regarding this issue, she said it is far easier to blame a person from another ethnic group living near you. I mean, who's sitting in the same LRT and eating at the same fast food restaurant in which most of the counter staff appear to be Malays, for robbing you of opportunities in life. And also, it is easier to get angry at news of someone from another race ripping off your fellow friends over something tangible like a phone than perhaps the missing billions in the 1MDB. And when you talk about all these other very sensitive issues, right, we have a lot better things to worry about. And perhaps she meant that this just could be a phone theft, but then it has led to another issue, which is to talk about the racism. But when you talk about the racism in Malaysia, it is also partially the government, that how he or she, the government as in overall, crafted the whole society?
I think so. We have been practicing sort of this racial politics for a very long time, where we sort of just carried on what the British left here when they segregated us from the start, where you have the Malay community, the Chinese, the Indians, where we focused on different things. Like the Chinese was always more into mining and trading, and the others had different areas of economy that they were focusing on, like the rubber estate or agriculture, whatever it is. And we just sort of carried on that culture with us along the years, although we've had independence for so long now. And we still, as much as we are breaking away from the change, we still are sort of tied up to that racial politics, where we still have MCA, MIC, or UMNO to represent the different races. Whereas we could just break away from all that and just have one MP, or Prime Minister, that it doesn't matter which party you're from. What he does is he represents the people, and I think that Malaysians are actually trying very hard to break away from all these racial barriers and to get there, to actually form a united society where we don't actually have to be defined by our race or our ethnicity, even when it comes to choosing a leader. Just because I'm Indian doesn't mean that I have to choose an Indian leader to represent me. Anyone who is capable of doing the job at the parliament can represent me and everyone else. It comes down to that. It's really not about the skin color, and I hope that although people have been saying that this is about racism, of course, we do not deny that there is racism in this country, but we are trying very hard to get over that, to break away from that, especially from all this stereotyping and preconceived judgments that we may have from our upbringing or for your past experiences or whatever it is. The best thing to do is just move on from this incident, learn what we can, and make sure it doesn't happen again in the future.
Yeah, you have a point there, and but at the same time, the root of this ethnic conflict, it's so deep in all of us, especially between Malays and Chinese, and they have their own perception. And when it comes to these two races, especially, that we still have this idea of Chinese being much wealthier significantly, but it is also very not clear how much of that is really true, because according to Khazanah's Research Institute, they show that 26% of Bumiputra households earns less than 2,000 per month, compared to 20% and 14% of Indian and Chinese households, respectively. So we can argue that if Chinese really do dominate the economic in Malaysia or not.
Yes, but then again, I think that's more of a culture that's being practiced, like what I was saying earlier about when the British were here. They did bring in the Chinese as businessmen already,
for sure.
So it was easier for them to carry on being that. And I think if they are indeed dominating the economy, the best thing to do is just step up your game as well, because at the end of the day, it's not about your skin color, it's about what you can bring to the table. And if you're capable enough to get the job done, I don't think there's any reason why race should be an issue here. And also, to sort of give a conclusion to this, I think that this is Malaysia, and we do have a lot of races, not just Indian, Malay, and Chinese. We have so many different ethnicities as well, and we have been living this way for a long time, and I am positive that we can carry on this way by accepting each other's differences and knowing our limits and our boundaries, and trying to create a harmony. I mean, when you are in school, you don't even think about these things. You just have friends from different races, and you know that some people do things differently from what you do, but that doesn't mean that someone is right or someone is wrong. It's human nature for everyone to be different, and I think that what we can take away from this incident is that we are different and things are gonna happen, but learn from it and move on.
We have to learn from him. I mean, we can just, be quiet about this incident and hoping that the vibe fades away. It will happen, but at the same time, if we really want Malaysia to move forward, we really need to learn from all this incident, or we can also call it mistakes that we've made. And we also need to stand on our feet to be able to voice out what's right and what's wrong, not just fighting over racism or any other issues. That's not necessary. And stereotyping Malays, Chinese, and Indian. Here we can work together as a whole community, not just each races how it works, and then just by stereotyping them and you're like that. Because like you mentioned before, Gowri, people are different and it depends on the backgrounds, not because of your races. So here we go again. I hope that our listeners out there, as well as those people who like to be keyboard warriors on social media, we hope that we need to voice out things properly, but at the same time, we also need to think about the consequences after we posting of things on Facebook or Twitters.
And yes, I think racial incidents happen everywhere, all across the world, not just in Malaysia, even in developed countries like the US, even in the Middle East, everywhere. But at the end of the day, we do love our country, whether or not we are totally proud of it and what's happening here. But when there is a problem, I think the best thing to do is find a solution for it and move on and don't dwell in it.
Right. So yes, that's it for the Durian Heat today. And stay tuned with us because we're gonna have a business section after this.